Okay, in this lecture, we're talking about chords. And thus far in this class, we have concentrated mainly on melody and rhythm. And so now we're going to introduce another aspect of music, and that is called harmony. Right? And so harmony is really just the study of tones sounding together, right? We'll talk more about that. Let's go to slide 2. So first off, chords. So chords are the smallest unit of harmony. And chords consist of 3 or more tones sounded together, right? So here would be an example of a chord, right? I'm playing 3 different tones, 1, 2, 3, right, at the same time. So that's considered a chord, right? And it's the smallest unit of harmony, right? There's lots of different kinds of chords, and they can have more than 3 tones at the same time. Like, for example, here's one with 4 tones. Let's go about 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4 different tones sounded together. Here's one with 5 different tones at the same time. We'll go, right? Here's one with 6 different tones, right? Kind of a weird chord, but so those are different kinds of chords. Also, 2 tones sounded together can imply harmony, even if there's not 3 tones. But a chord itself must have at least 3 different tones. Okay, moving on to slide number 3. So let's talk about triads. So triads, well, although any combination of 3 or more tones can be a chord, the triad is a specific 3-tone chord built in thirds. Okay? So the triad is a specific 3-tone chord built in the intervals of thirds. Let's look at the first example here on slide number 3. We see the 3 tones that we see are what? C, E, and G, right? And it's built in thirds. If we look closely between the lowest pitch, the lowest tone, C, and the next highest one, or the one in the middle, E, that's a third. In fact, it's a major third. And then if we look at the middle note and the highest note, that's another third. That's from E to G. And in that case, that's a minor third. So we have this triad is built in thirds, right? Here's a third, play it together, thirds. Look at the next example, the one in the middle here on slide number 3. What are the 3 tones that form this triad? They are D, and then the middle one is F sharp, and the highest one is A. So we have D, F sharp, A. That's another triad. Here's the third, right? From D to F sharp is a major third, and then from F sharp up to the highest one, A, is another third, a minor third. Look at the next one. We've got, what are the 3 tones in this next triad? Well, they are E flat on the bottom, G in the middle, and B flat on the top, right? So that's another triad built in thirds. All right, let's move on to slide number 4. So each tone in the triad has a specific name. Let's do the first one we just did on the last slide, the one with C, E, G. Okay, so the lowest tone here is going to be called the root, right? And then next highest one, the one in the middle, is going to be called the third. And then the highest one, we're going to call the fifth. Right? So you have root, third, fifth, right? Root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. Okay? So the lowest one is root, the middle one is third, the highest one is called the fifth. All right, let's move on to slide number 5. So because the root is considered the most important tone in a triad, all triads are named for their roots. So in this first chord, what's the root? The root is C, right? And then we have E and G on top of that. But since the root is C, we're going to call this triad a C triad, or you could also call it a C chord. The next one, what's the root? It's D, right? The notes in the next chord again are D, F sharp, A, and we have the lowest tone here is D, and so therefore we're going to call it a D triad. We're going to name it D. The next one, of course, since the lowest tone in this triad, or since the root is E flat, we're going to call this an E flat triad or chord. Okay, so C, D, E flat. Here would be an E. Here would be F. Here would be F sharp, G, right, and so on. Okay, moving on here to slide number 6. So the most common triads have a perfect fifth between the root. Let's go back to the first one, the C triad. So the most common triads have a perfect fifth between the root and the fifth, right? Remember, the fifth is the highest of the three, and the root is the lowest of the three. So the interval formed therein is the perfect fifth, right? So remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the interval between the root and the third may be either major or minor. Okay, it might be a major third or a minor third. And the triad is more specifically identified by this interval, this major third or minor third, as either a major triad or a minor triad. Okay? So, in other words, the major triad has a major third between the root and the third, and the minor triad has a minor third between the root and the third. They both have the same fifth, though, right? The fifth is C to G, and in this case, the third for the major triad is C to E, and in the minor triad, it's C to E flat. Okay, so you have your major triad, minor triad. Okay, all right, let's move on to slide number 7. Now let's practice this a little bit. Let's practice identifying the following triads as either major or minor. Okay, so remember that the interval between the root and the fifth is going to be a perfect fifth in all of these chords that we see in the graphic on slide number 7. So, in order to determine whether each of these is major or minor, you should concentrate on the root-third relationship. So let's look at the first one on slide number 7 here. We already see that it's labeled as major, but let's figure out how they came to that answer. So first off, step 1, just figure out what the 3 pitches are here in this triad. Well, they are F for the lowest note, A sorry, for the middle note, aka the third, and C for the highest note. Remember, the fifth. So we have F, A, C, right? And as up to now, we identify this as an F triad, right? But what makes it major rather than minor, right? So remember, how can we, in other words, can we determine whether or not the root to the third is a major third or a minor third? Well, we have to think back to the last chapter on intervals. So how did we come to this conclusion? Here's what you can do. Think about the lowest note here, the root, and pretend it's the beginning of a major scale, in this case, an F major scale, since that's what pitch it is. And then maybe think back to your F major scale, or look at your circle of fifths and go, how do I play my F major scale? Well, there's one flat, it's a B flat in the key signature. So we'll go F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, right? And so F, G, A, so F to A is our major third, right? Because we have in our major F major scale, F to A is a major third. So remember though, if my third is a half step lower, then that's what makes it a minor third. So in this case, it's F, A, C, and since A is in the F major scale as the third, we know this to be major, right? So that's my F major triad there. Let's just do one more here. Look at the very next one. So step one, figure out what those three pitches are that make up the triad. So what are they? I see G as the root, B flat as the third, and D as the fifth, right? So I have G, B flat, D, right? So I can already hear, oh, that's a minor triad, right? But if you can't hear that, you can still do this theoretically, right? You can go, okay, let's follow the same process we did with the first one. So we'll go, all right, we'll pretend the root is the beginning of a G major scale, okay? So think about G major. How do we play that? Think about the circle of fifths. What's the key signature look like? It's one sharp, right? So maybe just, practice your G major scale one time. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, okay? So I know that in the G major scale that my third is B, right? Because I go G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So since B is my third in the G major scale, I know that G to B is a major third interval. Now if it's a half step lower, if B is a half step lower, then I know it's a minor third, right? And so that's theoretically what makes this a minor triad. All right, so go through each of these and see if you can come up with the correct answer. By the way, this is on page 169 in your book, if it's easier to do there.